Imagine BMW X3, imagine Audi Q5 or imagine Mercedes GLC. If you're looking for a mid-sized luxury SUV, then these three German trio is what will come to your mind. But for some reason, if you want to ditch the Germans and you look for something rather unconventional, an oddball or offbeat, then you're left with only two options. The mild hybrid petrol Volvo XC60, which has been around for some time and is quite a package, or the just arrived, yet to be seen on the roads, the complete hybrid Lexus NX350h. And this H is a single most differentiating factor, which we'll talk about it later. But first, the design. My God, look at this. Come on, this is something totally that you don't expect from a Lexus, you know. It looks like a sumo wrestler has just won a Miss World competition with these cuts, this angulars and this blacked out grille. Without the chrome, it looks refreshingly imposing without being loud. That's what makes it so understated, so beautiful. I mean, this design is definitely much more sportier than the XC60. XC60 does turn heads, it's more sophisticated, but this is more on the sportier side. From the side also, there are too many cuts and creases, which makes the design look much more radical. Of course, this 20-inch rims accentuates the overall silhouette of the Lexus 350h, which looks very, very, very beautiful. There are a couple of nuances which Lexus has really taken care of very well. For example, the handle doesn't pop out, but there's a button which is hidden underneath the handle and which you press very gently and it slides out the door. From the rear, this is the favorite part. I think both Volvo and Lexus, they both from the rear look much more better than the front, because now you have a LED light which connects from one end to the another end and kind of looks very overpowering. In terms of design, Lexus definitely looks much more sportier and way sharper than the otherwise sophisticated looking XC60. Time to check out the rear seats, and before we do that, the door doesn't open completely, so ingress and outgress for especially for elderly people would be a little difficult. Having said that, the legroom is amazing, the headroom there's plenty of that, and the panoramic sunroof gives a very nice breathing space. Overall the cabin looks very luxurious from the rear. You have a sliding central armrest with two cup holders. You have a small transmission tunnel. There is a bump, so that means the third passenger would be squeezed in there. Two 3-type USB ports. There is a leather magazine holder you can slide in your laptop, iPad, whatever. Overall, the rear seat experience is decent. You won't be asking for more until you try the XC60. Moreover, the 520-liter boot space is adequate enough to carry all your essential luggage for your weekend trips. Let's look at XC60 with its clean, simple flowing lines. It looks very elegant, very sophisticated. It looks like a man in tuxedo with a grille which is, which you'll never get bored of. It keeps on growing on you. It is not sort of a eye turner, but it's something that you can look at it every day. Yeah, that's how I like to summarize the design of the XC60. It comes with 19-inch rim, very clean lines, looks very sharp. Here, the door handle pops up. That's one difference. I've always loved the rear design of the Volvos because I think they also beat the Germans out of the business when it comes to design from the rear, because it's very unique with the tail light all the way going up, which can be seen from like very far, and of course the very clear badging of Volvo. From the rear, both of them look their part. Both of them actually are very different in design. In fact, both of them will appeal to two of your senses. One on the morning time when you're very ready to go to office, and the other one maybe in the evening when you're up for some fun. While the XC60 feels more roomier, there's more legroom, more headroom. The panoramic sunroof also goes all the way back. The central armrest doesn't have the chubby cup holders, but a very smart, something which slides out, looks again more premium. There's Napa leather all around you, exudes premiumness, luxuriousness. There's a transmission tunnel again, which obstructs the third person to sit comfortably. There's only one C-type USB port in the rear, not that you're missing that too much. Well, the boot space of around 505 liters in Volvo XC60 is also decent enough and will suffice most of your adventure trips. Now this Lexus is a 2.5 litre inline 4-cylinder motor that gives power to the front wheels, while the electric motors gives power to the rear wheels. Because it's a hybrid, it's an eCVT which is made into a 6-speed gearbox which gives you a combined output of about 240 horsepower and 239 Nm of torque. Now I know that's not humongous, but what is important is that it's a CVT gearbox, which means that the engine still has that rubber band effect. That's not completely gone. It's more refined from the earlier Lexus that we've driven, but it's still there. So the moment you press harder, you can feel that something is holding you back, and it will not give you that liberation feeling, which perhaps is more enjoyable in the XC60. But having said that, this really on its own, it plays on its own. It drives very composed, very relaxed. This is a car which you'll not really go around and press hard. This is a car that you'll really have a very sedate, nice, luxurious driving experience, because if you want more torque and more power and you want something which is very quicker, then definitely XC60 scores over this. Now let's talk about the cabin experience. Now, this is a totally refreshing cabin that you have seen in any Lexus before. And of course, we have to talk about the 14-inch display in front of you. Yes, it reminds you of that you have got an Apple tablet stuck in front of you, and with such a precise pinch to zoom and the crystal clear display that it will completely bowl you over. Of course, there's a small display in front of you also, which is also very crisp and clear. Only thing is that this is more protruding towards the driver's side. It gives the passenger person feel very unwelcome in a way that it is not very usual. Usually you'll have a display instrument cluster which is flat out, but this is more jettisoned towards the driver's side, which again makes me think that maybe the engineers and the designers in Lexus were thinking of driver all the time. And here's a small party trick. There's Apple CarPlay and there's Android Auto, but only in the usual USB port. Yes, there's a C-type USB port and there's a usual USB port. Both Apple and Android only works on the big USB port. So that's something that also took me some time to figure out. XC60 is a mild hybrid car and NX350h is a fully hybrid car, which means that you can drive the NX up to a certain kilometer with the help of electric motors without using any fuel, resulting in huge fuel efficiency. The only real connection of a driver with the car is through the steering wheel. So let's do a steering wheel comparison. Volvo's steering wheel in comparison to the Lexus is bigger, but this one is very neatly packed with these tactile buttons here, which when touched throws up display in the heads-up display unit, which means you don't need to take off the eyes from the road. Plus, it also comes with paddle shifters. Now this is a game changer because the Volvos don't come with paddle shifters. Now with paddle shifters, it makes driving much more fun, pulling along much more fun, and this is something that every enthusiast loves, and we all crave for paddle shifters. Apart from that, it's also very neatly packaged. It's very soft leather. It's very good to hold, and it gives you a gripping experience of the whole car. Volvo's steering wheel also is good. It's larger. It has all the tactile controls, but it misses out on the paddle shifters, and that for me is a deal breaker. Now when it comes to driving, the Lexus does all the things very well in terms of cornering, in terms of ride, but it does misses out on the torque because the XC60 comes with 350 Nm of torque, while this one comes with 240 Nm of torque, which the difference is appalling when you are trying to do a quick takeover, because that power is missing. You actually lack power in this, but the electric motor does give you an initial thrust, but it doesn't really match up to the overall power and performance of the XC60. The suspension setup on the NX is on the stiffer side, but the ride quality of the car is quite pliant, with McPherson strut at the front and double wishbone setup at the rear, along with performance dampers and adaptive variable suspension, gives it a bit of an upright ride. Whereas in the XC60, we get double wishbone front suspension setup and integral link design with transverse leaf spring setup at the rear. The dampers and springs optimized for comfort smoothens the ride quality tad better as compared with that of Lexus. In case you want to watch the solo review of the NX350h, the link is on the pop-up icon on the top and also in the description below. Now it's time for XC60. Familiar cabin. Of course, I've driven this before many times over. In case you want to watch the solo review of the XC60, do click on the power icon on the top, and the link is in the description below. Now what I like the most about the XC60 infotainment system is that it comes with Google services. Yeah, it's Google powered, which means that it has an embedded SIM. It can also take internet from your mobile, and it doesn't need an Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It can show you maps on real-time basis via the inbuilt maps over here, the Spotify, and you can download tons of more apps over here. But this is something which is very intuitive, and it really is very practical in your day-to-day life. Of course, it misses out on that 14-inch beautiful display, and that really steals the thunder from the XC60. Otherwise, boring cabin, but in terms of practicality, this one definitely scores over it. The wheelbase of the XC60 is about 175mm longer. It's also 28mm longer in overall length from the Lexus, which also gives it a very pliant ride quality. Now, in terms of driving performance, this one definitely scores over the NX350 because it has higher number of torque, engine has more grunt, and it listens to your requirement. And when you want to really slow the pedal, it really jettisons forward, which somewhat Lexus is missing when you compare this with the XC60. Otherwise, the Lexus is also very playful, but when you stack them together, then this one definitely scores over this. The one feature which could be a deal breaker in the mid-size luxury SUV space, and only the Mercedes from the Germans have that, is the front row seats have the massage function. Yes, XC60 comes with 48-volt lithium battery, whereas the NX350 comes with 259-volt lithium battery. So that's a complete hybrid system which gives you a much better fuel economy. The XC60 doesn't even come near that. Now that's another plus to the NX350h, because when it comes to fuel efficiency, that car will definitely give more in terms of fuel economy. And today everybody likes the fuel economy because the gas prices are just going up north. Both the cars have some good features which are missing on each other. Maybe the engineers of some other manufacturer could take the recipe from these two cars and make a whole new ground up new car with all the features incorporated. That could be something very interesting. Whenever you floor the pedal in the XC60, you do that with a lot of confidence. There's no amount of wheel spinning, and the body rollover is bare minimum, and you have a complete grip over the entire body of the XC60, and you know exactly where you're going, when you can brake and where this will stop. You have so much of confidence in the XC60, which somehow you miss in the NX350h. Maybe because I've driven this more, maybe I've not spent enough time with the NX350, but that's what I get the feeling initially when it comes to driving. They both are different adults, raised differently, with different hearts beating underneath them. Of course, priced almost similarly, with only one variant on offer in the XC60, with 3 trims available in the NX350h, with the top model going up to 71-72 lakhs ex-showroom. That makes it about 8 lakhs more expensive than the XC60. Now, having said that, they both have their unique propositions. They both have their share of strengths and weaknesses, which in fact cascade on each other. It's very difficult to take a pick on any single of them and single it out. Lexus is more on the sportier side. Volvo is more on the sophisticated side. Now you know how to draw your comparison out. But together, as a behemoth, they sure are a welcome change to take on the Germans. And that is how I like to conclude. Do drop us in the comments which one would you pick. And if you've not subscribed, please do that now.